The ancient Sentinel denied all access. The human knocked and said, "Maintenance check." Centuries of dust and scratches marked its body, but it looked strong and alive. Beside him, Lisa Brown adjusted her helmet and looked at the gateway with awe. "It's bigger than I thought," she whispered. Jack nodded. He had seen pictures, but seeing it in person was different. There was a sense that it was watching them, judging them. The gateway was not ordinary. It was called the Sentinel Gate, guarded by the ancient Sentinel, a machine older than any human could understand. No one from any species had ever been allowed inside. Legends said the Sentinel could read the minds of anyone who approached and decide their fate. Many ships had come before and none had returned. Jack took a deep breath. Fear was natural, but humans had something others did not: determination. He remembered what his father had told him when he was a child. Humans survive not because they are strongest, but because they refuse to give up. Lisa placed a hand on Jack's shoulder. "Are you sure about this?" she asked. Jack smiled. "We fix things, Lisa. We don't destroy them. If it wants to see what humans can do, it will have to give us a chance." The Sentinel stirred. Its presence was heavy, and the air around the gateway seemed to hum. The stars reflected off its surface, but inside there was darkness. No human had ever felt a machine like this before. It was not just a machine. It was older than most planets, older than some stars. It had watched civilizations rise and fall, and its purpose was to protect the secret inside the gate. Jack stepped forward and raised his hand. Lisa stopped him. "Jack, wait, it might attack." He shook his head. "We have to try. Hesitation will only make it worse." He reached the metal surface and knocked, first lightly, then again, more firmly. The sound echoed across the barren landscape. The echo was strange. It did not sound empty. It sounded alive. "Maintenance check," Jack said calmly. The words were simple, but he spoke them with honesty. The Sentinel paused. It had never heard a voice like this. Most beings approached with fear, with weapons, or with respect they did not understand. Jack's words were neither command nor prayer. They were human and straightforward. The surface of the gate vibrated slightly. Lisa stepped closer to Jack. "Did it hear you?" she asked. Jack shrugged. "Let's find out." The vibration grew. Slowly, a small panel slid open on the gate. Light spilled out, pale and cold. A voice, deep and resonant, filled the air. It was not angry, but it was strong, and it carried the weight of centuries. "Identity?" the voice asked. It was like metal folding over metal, clear yet impossible to place. "I am Jack Miller, human engineer. This is Lisa Brown, pilot," Jack replied without fear. "We are here to perform a maintenance check. We mean no harm." The gate was silent for a long moment. Lisa held her breath. She had been trained for emergencies, but nothing prepared her for talking to a machine older than Earth itself. Then the voice spoke again. "Access denied, purpose unclear, threat potential high." Jack nodded. He expected this. "We understand. We only need to check the systems outside first. We do not need to enter immediately. We can demonstrate our methods." Another long pause. Then, slowly, the panel closed. The hum of the Sentinel grew, like it was thinking. Lisa turned to Jack. "It's like it's deciding," Jack smiled. "Maybe it's learning." Over the next hours, they set up their equipment. They could not touch the gate beyond the panel, but they could study the energy patterns and the small systems on the surface. Jack worked carefully. Lisa monitored their instruments and recorded everything. The Sentinel observed silently. It did not interfere, but the humans could feel its attention, heavy and constant. "Humans are strange," Lisa whispered. "It has never let anyone close, yet it does not attack us." Jack nodded. "It has rules. Maybe it sees we are different." As they worked, Jack noticed something unusual. The Sentinel was responding to their movements, not like a normal machine. It adjusted its power flow near their tools, almost as if it was testing them. Lisa saw it too. "It's curious," she said. Jack laughed softly. "Curious is good. Curiosity is survival." Night fell, though in space, night was not the same as on Earth. The stars shone brighter near the gateway, reflecting off its surface. Jack and Lisa took a short rest, sitting against the base of the gate. "Do you think it will ever let us inside?" Lisa asked. Jack did not answer immediately. He looked at the gateway, feeling the weight of history. "Maybe, but even if it doesn't, we have made it see humans differently. That is enough for now." Hours passed. The Sentinel did not speak again, but its presence changed. The vibration beneath their feet was gentler, less threatening. Jack realized something. The Sentinel had rules, yes, but it also had logic. It had never been challenged by someone like him, someone who approached without fear or arrogance. It was reconsidering its judgment. Suddenly, the Sentinel spoke again. Its voice was softer this time, less mechanical. Humans unusual, method unclear, outcome uncertain. Lisa looked at Jack. That sounds like a step forward, Jack nodded. It is. Uncertainty is where humans thrive. They continued their study, learning more about the energy fields, the cooling systems, and the power conduits that ran through the gate. Every tool Jack touched, every adjustment he made, seemed to be watched and recorded by the Sentinel. But it did not interfere. It allowed them to act within limits, testing their patience and skill. As dawn approached, Jack stood and looked at Lisa. "We need to rest. We have done all we can for now." Lisa agreed, but both of them felt the weight of the Sentinel's gaze as they prepared to sleep. The gateway had not opened, but for the first time, humans had spoken and been heard. Before they slept, Jack knocked again, softly. "Maintenance check," he said. It was not a command this time, more a promise. The Sentinel paused. Then, without words, it adjusted the panel slightly, a gesture no other species had ever received. Jack smiled faintly. It was a small sign, but it meant the Sentinel was considering them differently. Humans had a chance. The night passed slowly. Jack and Lisa remained near the gate, taking turns resting. They were alone, yet not entirely. The Sentinel was there, observing, judging, learning. For the first time in millions of years, it faced the uncertainty of humans. In the quiet of space, Jack whispered to himself, "We are not strong like the old empires, but we are persistent, and sometimes that is stronger than anything else." Lisa heard him and nodded, though she smiled softly, knowing he was right. They did not know what tomorrow would bring. Perhaps access would still be denied. Perhaps the Sentinel would turn them away. But they had made the first human mark on a gate that had never bowed to any being. As the stars wheeled overhead, the Sentinel continued its silent watch. The humans were different. They were not predictable. They were small, fragile, and yet fearless. That was something new, something the Sentinel had never accounted for. And in that quiet, a door began to open, not a physical door, but a possibility. Jack and Lisa slept near the base of the gate, while the Sentinel's attention lingered, thinking, questioning, and for the first time, reconsidering its eternal rule. The first step was done. The humans had knocked. The Sentinel had listened. And in that small act, the story of the ancient gate and the human determination began the next day. Jack and Lisa awoke to the soft hum of the Sentinel. The stars were bright, and the barren landscape around the gate looked cold and endless. Jack stretched and looked at the massive surface of the gate. It was still closed, but there was a difference. Small panels had shifted slightly, like tiny windows opening for the first time. Lisa noticed it too. "It moved," she said softly. Jack nodded. "It is watching more carefully now. It is thinking." They prepared their equipment again. Today, they hoped to learn more about the gate and the Sentinel without touching the areas that were strictly forbidden. Jack connected his sensors and began scanning the outer panels, measuring energy flows and vibrations. Lisa monitored the instruments. She could feel the Sentinel's presence pressing down, but it was not threatening. It was curious, almost cautious. "Humans adapt quickly," the Sentinel said suddenly. Its voice echoed, metallic yet soft. Jack paused and looked at Lisa. "Did it just speak to us directly?" Lisa nodded. "Yes, it is talking. Maybe it is starting to see us as different." Jack stepped forward carefully. "We are here to learn. We are not a threat. We repair things that are broken," he said. The Sentinel paused. "Repair meaning uncertain, humans unusual, persistence noted." Lisa smiled. "It is thinking about us. It is analyzing humans." Jack nodded. "That is all we can hope for right now. Curiosity can lead to trust." They spent hours studying the outer systems. Jack adjusted one of the cooling conduits that ran along the surface. Lisa noted the readings. The Sentinel observed every movement, every adjustment. It did not interfere, but its energy pulses shifted slightly, like a heartbeat slowing to watch carefully. Jack realized the Sentinel was not simply a machine. It had judgment. It was weighing every action. "Why does it let us do this?" Lisa asked quietly. Jack shrugged. "It has rules. Usually it would deny all access, but humans are different. It senses honesty and skill." As they worked, Jack discovered signs of wear and damage on the gate's exterior. Parts of the structure were corroded, some panels loose, energy conduits flickering. Lisa looked concerned. "If this is failing, then what is inside? Is it dangerous?" Jack nodded. "Maybe, and maybe that is why the Sentinel is so strict. It is protecting something important or dangerous. Our job is to help it carefully." After a short rest, Jack and Lisa continued. They began testing small systems they were allowed to touch. They adjusted energy flows, repaired minor faults, and recorded the results. Each small success seemed to gain the Sentinel's attention. It no longer just watched. It reacted. Small panels moved in response to Jack's tools. Vibrations shifted in a pattern that seemed almost communicative. Lisa noticed it. "It is like it is talking to us without words," she said. Jack nodded. "We are learning its language slowly." Humans are good at patterns and observation. As evening approached, the Sentinel spoke again. Its voice was softer, less mechanical. "Humans unusual, method honest, skill observed, threat low." Lisa's eyes widened. "It said our threat is low." "It trusts us a little," Jack smiled faintly. "A little is enough to keep going. Trust grows slowly." They continued their work late into the night. The stars above were bright, reflected off the cold metal of the gate. Jack adjusted a failing power relay, carefully following the energy readings. Lisa monitored every signal. The Sentinel pulsed around them like it was alive and breathing. Jack could feel its intelligence, its judgment, and its growing curiosity. "Why do you think it listens to us?" Lisa asked quietly. Jack considered it. "It has rules, yes, but those rules do not understand persistence and care. Humans are persistent. We keep trying, even when failure seems certain. Maybe it recognizes that now." The Sentinel spoke again, slower this time. "Humans persistent, logic unexpected, learning observed, potential noted." Lisa wrote down the words. "It is analyzing us like a student learning a new lesson." Jack nodded. "And we are teaching it that humans are more than just weak flesh and fear. We solve problems that others avoid." Hours passed. Jack and Lisa were exhausted, but they did not stop. They repaired small faults, adjusted energy flows, and studied the strange systems that pulsed within the gate. Each adjustment brought small reactions from the Sentinel. Panels shifted, energy pulsed differently, and vibrations changed. It was testing them as much as they were testing it. Finally, Jack stepped back and looked at Lisa. "We need to rest. We have done all we can today." Lisa agreed, but both felt the Sentinel's attention as they set up their rest station. It lingered, observing, judging, and perhaps learning. Jack knew this was the first real step. Humans had never been so close to the Sentinel. They had not entered, but they had been acknowledged. Before sleeping, Jack knocked lightly on the gate again. "Maintenance check," he said softly. The Sentinel paused. Then a faint glow spread across several panels, signaling attention. It did not speak, it did not allow entry yet, but it had reacted. That reaction was progress. As they lay near the base of the gate, Jack whispered to Lisa, "It is learning. It sees that humans are different. We survive not because we are strongest, but because we try no matter what." Lisa smiled. "And maybe that is enough to make it trust us someday." The night passed slowly. The Sentinel remained nearby, its presence constant. Jack and Lisa slept in shifts, careful to remain near their equipment. The gateway had not opened, but the humans had made contact. They had been acknowledged. And the Sentinel, ancient and powerful, was beginning to see humans as something new. As dawn approached, the first rays of light reflected off the massive metal surface. The Sentinel pulsed gently, as if considering the day ahead. Jack and Lisa prepared for another day of study, knowing that their persistence was the key. The Sentinel had rules, but rules could change when challenged by determination and honesty. Humans had already begun to challenge them. Jack stood and looked at the gate. "We will not force it, we will not break its rules, but we will show it humans are different. We fix, we endure, and we care. That is our way." Lisa nodded. Together they began another day of work, unaware of how deeply the Sentinel had begun to understand them. And so the humans continued their study, their tools moving carefully over the ancient surface. The Sentinel observed, listened, and judged. It had never seen a species like this. Weak in body, fragile in many ways, yet fearless, persistent, and honest. For the first time in millions of years, it faced uncertainty, and in uncertainty, humans had an advantage. The day passed. Small systems were repaired. Energy readings stabilized slightly. Jack and Lisa's actions were deliberate, careful, and respectful. The Sentinel's pulses and vibrations shifted, signaling approval. It did not speak much, but when it did, its words carried curiosity rather than judgment. "Humans, method, effective, behavior, consistent, trust, developing." Lisa looked at Jack. "Did you hear that?" Jack nodded. "Yes, it is acknowledging us. That is more than most beings ever get." As night fell again, Jack and Lisa set up for rest. The Sentinel pulsed softly, and small panels moved as if to offer comfort or attention. Jack smiled faintly. "We are making progress." "Slow but real," Lisa nodded. They were not inside, but they had begun to build a connection. The Sentinel was no longer an enemy. It was a watcher and perhaps a teacher waiting for humans to prove themselves. Before sleeping, Jack knocked one last time. "Maintenance check," he whispered. The Sentinel paused and pulsed in response. It was not entry, it was not approval yet. It was attention, acknowledgement, and curiosity. The first real step had been taken. The humans slept near the base of the gate, while the Sentinel's presence lingered. It had rules, but humans were teaching it something new. Persistence, honesty, and care could challenge the oldest laws. And the Sentinel had begun to learn that lesson, slowly, carefully, and with growing interest. Humans had knocked. The Sentinel had listened. The story was just beginning the next morning. Jack and Lisa woke to the quiet hum of the Sentinel. It was different today. The vibrations under their feet were stronger, yet steady, as if the ancient machine was preparing to communicate more clearly. Jack rubbed his eyes and looked at the massive metal surface. He had a feeling that today would be important. Lisa adjusted her sensors and checked the readings from the previous day. The numbers were unusual. Energy fluctuations suggested that the systems inside the gate were unstable. "Jack, look at this," Lisa said, pointing to the monitor. "The energy flows inside the gate are uneven. Something is failing. If it keeps going like this, it could be dangerous." Jack studied the readings. "That explains why the Sentinel is so strict. It is protecting something important, maybe even something deadly. That is why it denies access to everyone." The Sentinel's voice sounded suddenly resonant and calm. "Humans observing unusual persistence noted, danger present, caution advised." Lisa looked at Jack. "It is warning us." Jack nodded. "It cares about the consequences." "It is not cruel, it is bound by rules." Jack took a deep breath. "We have to understand the systems better. We cannot just touch the gate blindly. We need to learn what it is protecting." Lisa agreed. They spent the next few hours scanning the panels, analyzing the energy conduits, and mapping the structure as much as the Sentinel allowed. Every adjustment and measurement was watched closely. The Sentinel's pulses changed with every move, almost like it was breathing. "Look at these readings," Jack said. "Some of the power relays are failing. The cooling systems are weakening. This is not a minor fault. If the core system inside the gate collapses, it could destroy everything nearby. This is why the Sentinel denies access. It cannot risk failure." Lisa nodded. "And humans are the only ones who might fix it. Other species would have left or fought it already." Jack smiled faintly. "That is why we are here. Humans solve problems others avoid." As they continued, the Sentinel spoke again. Its voice was softer this time. "Humans, method unexpected, honesty noted, skill observed, potential uncertain." Lisa wrote down the words. "It is analyzing us just like yesterday, but now it mentions potential. It is thinking about what we can do, not just what we are." Jack stepped closer to the gate and touched one of the outer panels. It vibrated slightly under his hand. Lisa watched nervously. "Jack, be careful. We do not know how it will react." Jack nodded. "I know. But we have to show it we are careful, not reckless." He adjusted a minor power conduit, following the energy patterns he had studied. The Sentinel's hum shifted slightly. It was observing, not controlling. Hours passed, and slowly Jack and Lisa began to understand more about the gate systems. Some were simple, some were complex beyond human understanding. Yet the Sentinel allowed them to study, to repair minor faults, and to stabilize small energy flows. Every success gained subtle approval from the Sentinel. Small panels shifted, energy flows adjusted slightly, and vibrations pulsed differently. "It is like a conversation," Lisa whispered. "We act and it responds, we learn and it reacts." Jack nodded. "Yes. This is how humans communicate with machines. Patience, observation, and persistence. We do not force, we work with." As evening approached, Jack and Lisa noticed a pattern. The Sentinel was not just observing their actions, it was testing them. Every minor repair, every careful adjustment, caused the Sentinel to pulse differently. It was assessing their skill, their honesty, and their patience. Lisa realized that the Sentinel's rules were not just commands, they were a challenge. Only those who proved themselves could gain trust. "Jack, I think it wants to see if we can handle the responsibility," Lisa said quietly. Jack considered it. "Yes, this is more than repair. It is teaching us even without words. Humans have to show they are worthy." They continued their work late into the night. The stars reflected off the metal of the gate, cold and bright. Jack adjusted an unstable energy conduit while Lisa monitored the readings. The Sentinel pulsed around them, almost like it was alive. It did not speak, but its presence was constant. Jack realized that it had begun to see humans differently. They were not just intruders or weak creatures. They were persistent, careful, and honest, qualities the Sentinel had never seen in any other species. Suddenly, the Sentinel spoke. Its voice was calm, almost contemplative. Humans' unusual, determination observed, method consistent, potential recognized, caution maintained. Lisa looked at Jack. It recognized our potential. That is huge. It trusts us more than before. Jack nodded. Yes, trust grows slowly, but this is a start. They spent the next several hours stabilizing small systems they were allowed to touch. Each repair, each adjustment, seemed to gain more attention from the Sentinel. It was no longer just watching, it was learning from them. Lisa noticed that some panels that had been unstable for centuries were now holding energy more steadily. Jack smiled. We are making a difference. The Sentinel allowed it. Our persistence is working. As night passed, Jack and Lisa rested near the base of the gate. The Sentinel's hum pulsed gently, almost like a heartbeat. It had rules, but humans were teaching it something new. Persistence, honesty, and care could challenge even the oldest laws. Jack thought about what this meant. Humans were small, fragile, and weak compared to many species, yet they had qualities that could change the universe. Before sleeping, Jack knocked lightly on the gate. "Maintenance check," he whispered. The Sentinel paused. Then faint lights spread across several panels, signaling attention. It was not permission, but it was acknowledgement. It was learning that humans could act with care and skill without breaking its rules. The night was quiet, but the Sentinel remained near. Jack and Lisa took shifts, resting, careful to stay close to their equipment. They did not know what tomorrow would bring, but they had achieved something important. The Sentinel had begun to see humans differently. It was not a gatekeeper alone. It was a judge, a teacher, and now, a watcher willing to test and observe. When dawn arrived, the first rays of light reflected off the massive metal surface. The Sentinel pulsed steadily, signaling stability. Jack and Lisa prepared for another day, knowing that their persistence had changed something in the ancient machine. The Sentinel had rules, but those rules could be influenced by honesty and skill. Humans were proving themselves worthy. Jack looked at Lisa. We have learned a lot, and so has it. Humans are different. We endure, we care, and we try when others would give up. That is why it is starting to trust us. Lisa nodded. And maybe one day it will allow us inside, not because we demand it, but because we earned it. They spent the day repairing and stabilizing systems, small adjustments that made large differences over time. Each action gained subtle approval from the Sentinel. Jack realized that the machine was teaching them as much as they were helping it. They were learning patience, observation, and careful skill, the same qualities the Sentinel valued above all else. As night fell, Jack and Lisa set up to rest again. The Sentinel pulsed softly, its presence constant. Jack knocked lightly. "Maintenance check," he said. The Sentinel paused, then responded with gentle vibrations. It was not permission, but recognition. Humans had gained more than they knew. The Sentinel was beginning to see them as something new, something worthy of trust. The stars shone above the gate, bright and distant. Jack and Lisa rested, knowing that they had begun a journey that few species could ever imagine. The Sentinel had rules, yes, but it also had curiosity and judgment. Humans had knocked, and for the first time in millions of years, the ancient Sentinel had listened. The story was no longer just about a gate. It was about humans, their persistence, and their ability to change even the oldest laws. Jack whispered to Lisa before sleep. We are not strong like empires or giants, but we endure, we care, and we never stop trying. That is why we can make a difference. Lisa smiled and nodded, and maybe that difference will change everything. The Sentinel remained, its hum steady and thoughtful. It had rules, but humans had taught it something new. Persistence, honesty, and careful action could challenge even the oldest decisions. It had begun to reconsider its eternal rule, and for the first time, humans were part of that reconsideration. And so the humans continued, unaware of how deeply they had begun to influence the Sentinel. Their small acts, their careful adjustments, and their honesty were changing something ancient and powerful. The gate had not opened yet, but the first cracks of trust were forming. The story of humans and the Sentinel was only beginning. The morning air was cold near the Sentinel gate, though the stars above were bright and steady. Jack and Lisa were ready for another day of study. The Sentinel's hum was different today, calmer yet more focused. Jack looked at Lisa and said, "I think it is giving us more trust. It is letting us work closer to the gate without interference." Lisa nodded, her eyes scanning the energy readings on the monitors. "We have to be careful. It is testing us." They spent hours analyzing the outer systems. Energy conduits were unstable, some panels corroded, and cooling systems faltering. Jack worked carefully, adjusting flows, tightening small connectors, and replacing worn circuits with spare components he carried. Lisa monitored every reading, noting small improvements. Each action was slow, deliberate, and careful. The Sentinel pulsed in response, almost like it was approving some moves and questioning others. "Look at this," Lisa said. "The energy pulses here are responding to your adjustments. It is reacting to us directly," Jack nodded. "It is not just observing anymore, it is interacting. Every repair we make changes the way it sees us." As they worked, the Sentinel spoke, its voice calm and resonant. Humans' skill demonstrated, method careful, persistence noted, understanding increasing. Lisa wrote the words down. "It is recognizing more than our skill. It is seeing that we understand what we are doing, not just following instructions." Jack smiled faintly. "That is key. It needs to know we are capable, not reckless." Hours passed. They moved slowly, stabilizing small systems one by one. Jack repaired a failing power relay while Lisa adjusted the alignment of an energy conduit. Each adjustment brought a subtle reaction from the Sentinel. Panels shifted slightly, vibrations pulsed differently, and the hum changed tone. It was almost like the machine was learning from them. "It is like a conversation," Lisa said quietly. "We act, it responds, we adjust." "Over time, it trusts us more," Jack nodded. "And that trust is fragile. One wrong move could undo everything." As night approached, Jack noticed a new pattern in the energy flows. Some conduits were not just unstable, they were dangerous. If left alone, the fluctuations could trigger a catastrophic failure. He turned to Lisa. "We have to act carefully. This could be serious. If we make a mistake, it might react aggressively." Lisa nodded, tightening her gloves and checking the tools. They began stabilizing the dangerous conduits. Jack worked slowly, his hands steady as he adjusted the energy flows. Lisa monitored the readings, calling out numbers and warnings. The Sentinel's hum shifted as they worked, more intense but not hostile. It was watching closely, learning and testing their patience. "Humans' method effective, caution maintained, understanding observed," the Sentinel said. Lisa smiled softly. "It acknowledges that we are careful. That is progress," Jack nodded. "We cannot rush." "The Sentinel is teaching us patience." Hours passed. The adjustments were delicate, each move precise. Jack repaired a failing cooling system while Lisa stabilized an energy conduit that had been flickering dangerously. The Sentinel pulsed in response, almost like it was approving each careful step. Small panels on the gate shifted slightly, a gesture no other species had ever received. "Look at that," Lisa whispered. "It is reacting to our actions in real time." "It trusts us more than before," Jack nodded. "And that trust is earned. Every adjustment, every repair counts." As night fell, the stars reflected off the massive metal surface. Jack and Lisa set up their rest station near the base of the gate. The Sentinel's hum was steady, constant, like a heartbeat. Jack knocked lightly on the gate. "Maintenance check," he said softly. The Sentinel paused, then responded with gentle vibrations. It was not permission, but acknowledgement. It was learning that humans could act carefully and skillfully without breaking its rules. During the night, a sudden warning pulse went through the energy monitors. A conduit was failing faster than expected. Jack woke immediately, grabbing his tools. Lisa followed, checking the readings. "We have to stabilize it now," Jack said. They worked quickly but carefully, adjusting flows, repairing connectors, and tightening worn circuits. The Sentinel pulsed around them, tense but not hostile. It was testing them under pressure. Humans' persistence observed, skill applied, caution maintained, potential confirmed, the Sentinel said. Lisa nodded. "It recognizes that we can handle pressure. That is huge. No other species has done this." Jack smiled faintly. "Humans survive by trying when others give up. That is our advantage." After hours of work, the conduit stabilized. Energy readings returned to safe levels. The Sentinel pulsed softly, almost like relief. Jack and Lisa leaned against the gate, exhausted but satisfied. "We did it," Lisa whispered. Jack nodded. "We earned more trust today. It is beginning to see humans differently." As dawn approached, Jack studied the massive surface of the gate. It had not opened, but the Sentinel's small gestures, shifting panels, changing vibrations, responsive energy pulses, showed progress. Humans had begun to earn a place in its judgment. Lisa looked at him. "Do you think it will ever let us inside?" Jack considered it. "Maybe. If we keep showing skill, honesty, and persistence, it may. But for now, every small success matters." They spent the next day repairing minor systems and stabilizing energy flows. Each adjustment was careful, deliberate, and precise. The Sentinel pulsed in response, testing their patience, their skill, and their understanding. Jack realized that the machine was not just guarding the gate, it was evaluating humans. Humans' method consistent, understanding increasing, potential recognized. "Trust developing," the Sentinel said. Lisa smiled. "It said trust is developing, that is huge." Jack nodded. "Slowly but surely, humans are patient, we endure, we care, and we do not give up." As night fell, Jack and Lisa set up their rest station again. The Sentinel's hum pulsed steadily. Jack knocked lightly on the gate. "Maintenance check," he said. The Sentinel paused, then responded with a faint vibration. It was not permission, but acknowledgement. Humans had earned recognition. They were being tested, observed, and judged carefully. The night passed quietly. Jack and Lisa rested in shifts, staying close to their equipment. They knew that the Sentinel's rules were strict, but they had learned that persistence, honesty, and careful action could influence even the oldest laws. Humans had knocked, and the Sentinel had listened. As dawn arrived, the first rays of light reflected off the massive metal surface. Jack and Lisa prepared for another day. The Sentinel pulsed steadily, signaling stability. Jack looked at Lisa. "We are making a difference. Humans endure, we care, and we never stop trying." "That is why it is starting to trust us," Lisa nodded. "And maybe one day it will allow us inside, not because we demand it, but because we earned it." They spent the day repairing and stabilizing systems, small adjustments that made large differences over time. Each action gained subtle approval from the Sentinel. Jack realized that the machine was teaching them as much as they were helping it. They were learning patience, observation, and careful skill, the same qualities the Sentinel valued above all else. Before sleeping, Jack knocked lightly again. "Maintenance check," he whispered. The Sentinel paused and pulsed in response. It was not permission, but recognition. Humans had gained more than they knew. The Sentinel was beginning to see them as something new, something worthy of trust. And so, Jack and Lisa continued, unaware of how deeply they had begun to influence the Sentinel. Their small acts, careful adjustments, and honesty were changing something ancient and powerful. The gate had not opened yet, but the first cracks of trust were forming. Humans had knocked, and the Sentinel had begun to learn that persistence, honesty, and skill could challenge even the oldest decisions. The story was no longer just about a gate. It was about humans, their endurance, and their ability to change even the oldest laws. The Sentinel had rules, yes, but humans had begun to teach it a new lesson. That small, careful actions, persistent effort, and honesty could alter the path of history. Jack whispered to Lisa before sleep. "We are not strong like empires or giants, but we endure, we care, and we never stop trying. That is why we can make a difference." Lisa smiled and nodded. "And maybe that difference will change everything." The Sentinel remained, its hum steady and thoughtful. It had rules, but humans had taught it something new. It had begun to reconsider its eternal command, and for the first time, humans were part of that reconsideration. The morning was quiet, though the stars shone brightly over the Sentinel gate. Jack and Lisa awoke, knowing that today might be the day the Sentinel tested them fully. The hum of the massive gate was steady, yet stronger than ever. Jack looked at Lisa. "We have done everything we can from outside. Today it may decide to let us in, or it may reject us forever." Lisa nodded, checking her equipment. "We are ready. We have been careful, honest, and persistent. That is all we can do." As they prepared, the Sentinel spoke. Its voice was calm, resonant, and unusually clear. "Humans' persistence, skill, honesty, potential, recognized, threshold, evaluation." Lisa looked at Jack. "Evaluation, maybe it is deciding if we are worthy." Jack nodded. "This is it. We have to prove ourselves not with force, but with care." They approached the gate carefully, carrying only essential tools. The massive metal surface seemed alive, pulsing softly in response to their presence. Jack knocked lightly. "Maintenance check," he said. The Sentinel paused, then a panel opened wider than before. Light spilled out, pale and cold. Jack and Lisa exchanged a glance. This was the closest they had ever come. "Humans, step forward. Evaluation begins," the Sentinel said. Its voice was calm, yet carried the weight of millions of years. Jack and Lisa stepped cautiously onto the platform leading to the gate. The air was thick with energy. Every movement they made was observed. The Sentinel's pulses changed with each careful step, like a heartbeat measuring their skill and honesty. Jack began examining the inner panels they could reach. Lisa monitored the readings. The systems inside the gate were complex, more than they had imagined. Energy flows twisted through conduits, some failing, some stable, some dangerously overloaded. Jack worked slowly, adjusting circuits, stabilizing energy fields, and repairing minor faults. Lisa called out numbers and warnings, coordinating each move. "Humans, method careful, skill applied, patience observed, judgment forming," the Sentinel said. Lisa smiled softly. "It is noticing everything. It is watching how we act, not just what we do," Jack nodded. "We cannot rush. Every move counts." Hours passed. The repairs were delicate and difficult. Energy pulses shifted unpredictably. Jack tightened connectors, replaced worn circuits, and adjusted energy flows. Lisa monitored every fluctuation, guiding him when necessary. The Sentinel pulsed in response to every adjustment, sometimes approving, sometimes signaling caution. It was not hostile, but it was testing them fully. "Humans, persistence, remarkable, skill improving, judgment careful, potential verified," the Sentinel said. Lisa wrote down the words. "It recognized our potential. This is more than trust, it is acknowledgement." Jack nodded. "Humans endure. We solve problems others cannot. That is our strength." As they worked, Jack noticed a failing core conduit. The energy readings spiked dangerously. "Lisa, this is critical. If we do not stabilize it, it could trigger a system collapse." Lisa checked the readings and nodded. "We can handle it, carefully." Jack adjusted his tools. He moved slowly, following the energy flows precisely. Lisa called out each adjustment, and the conduit stabilized. The Sentinel pulsed gently, almost like a sigh. "Humans, critical response successful, caution maintained, skill verified, judgment reliable," the Sentinel said. Lisa smiled. "It acknowledged our success under pressure. No one else could have done this," Jack nodded. "And that is why humans survive. We persist, we adapt, and we act with care." After stabilizing the last critical systems, Jack and Lisa stepped back. The gate remained closed, but the Sentinel's panels shifted and pulsed in a pattern that felt like approval. Then its voice spoke clearly. "Humans worthy, access granted, responsibility recognized, rule rewritten." Lisa's eyes widened. "It said access is granted." "It rewrote its rule for us." Jack smiled faintly. "We earned it, not by force, not by fear, but by patience, skill, and care." The massive panels of the gate began to open slowly, revealing the inner systems. Light spilled out, revealing corridors of energy conduits, control panels, and machinery older than any human had imagined. The air was filled with a faint hum, alive and powerful. The Sentinel's presence was everywhere, guiding, watching, yet allowing them to proceed. Jack and Lisa stepped carefully inside. Every move they made was measured, deliberate, and cautious. The systems inside were fragile but stabilizing. They worked together to make minor repairs, adjust energy flows, and ensure the core systems remained stable. The Sentinel observed, but it no longer restricted them. It had recognized their skill and judgment. "Humans care observed, skill confirmed, judgment reliable, responsibility granted," the Sentinel said. Lisa looked at Jack. "We are inside." "It trusts us completely now," Jack nodded. "And we have shown that humans can act responsibly where others might fail." They continued their work for hours, stabilizing failing systems and observing the energy flows. The Sentinel pulsed around them, guiding when necessary, but giving them freedom to act. Jack realized something important. The Sentinel was not just a gatekeeper, it was a teacher. It had rules, yes, but it also valued understanding, patience, and honesty. Humans had shown it these qualities. Humans worthy of trust, actions responsible, potential fulfilled, rule updated, the Sentinel said. Lisa smiled softly. "It has changed its rules for us. It has acknowledged humans as caretakers, not intruders," Jack nodded. "And that is the greatest recognition any human could receive from an ancient being." As the day passed, Jack and Lisa explored more of the inner systems. They repaired failing circuits, stabilized energy conduits, and monitored the central core. Every action was slow, deliberate, and careful. The Sentinel pulsed around them, guiding, observing, and teaching. It no longer spoke in judgment, only acknowledgement and instruction. Humans capable, persistence observed, skill applied, care verified. Trust complete, the Sentinel said. Lisa looked at Jack. It trusts us fully now. No other species has ever earned this. Jack nodded. Humans endure, we care, and we never give up. That is our strength. As night fell, Jack and Lisa rested near the central core. The Sentinel's hum was steady, calm, and constant. Jack knocked lightly on a nearby panel. Maintenance check, he said softly. The Sentinel pulsed gently in response. It was no longer a test. It was acknowledgement of their achievement. Humans had knocked, and the ancient Sentinel had opened the door. Jack whispered to Lisa, "We have changed something older than any civilization. The Sentinel has rewritten its rules because we proved ourselves." Humans are recognized not for power, but for patience, care, and persistence. Lisa smiled. And that will be remembered. Across the galaxy, stories will spread about how humans faced the impossible and succeeded. The Sentinel spoke one last time, its voice calm and resolute. Humans caretakers, rule rewritten, access permanent, responsibility granted, lesson learned, potential honored. Jack and Lisa looked at each other, realizing the weight of this moment. They had not just repaired systems, they had changed the judgment of an ancient being. As dawn approached, the first rays of light reflected off the inner systems, revealing the full scale of the ancient machinery. Jack and Lisa continued their work carefully, now fully trusted by the Sentinel. They knew that humans had earned a place in history. Their persistence, skill, and honesty had been recognized by a being older than time itself. Jack whispered before resting, "We are not strong like empires or giants. We survive because we endure, we care, and we never give up. That is our power." Lisa nodded. And now the universe knows it too. The Sentinel remained, its hum steady and thoughtful. It had rules, but humans had taught it something new. Persistence, honesty, and careful action could influence even the oldest decisions. The gate was open, the systems were stable, and humans had proven themselves worthy. And so, the story ended not with destruction or conquest, but with recognition. Humans had knocked. The ancient Sentinel had listened, tested, and finally trusted. Humanity had changed something eternal, not through force, but through patience, care, and skill. The stars above reflected their achievement, and a new chapter began for humans, for the Sentinel, and for the galaxy.